Ready.
OCD, ADHD, depression, social anxiety. Do you feel these words hurt you or help you? Do you feel like you're using these labels way too much? Well, my guest today, Tony Bevacqua, is a corporate coach and author of the book Rehab. He believes in the need for us to change the way that we use language that stigmatizes us. Words like alcoholic, disease are emotionally charged and disempowering, fueling negative self-talk. I hope this episode inspires you to use positive language on yourself.
Ready.
Sophia Silva is a positive psychology coach who shares with her audiences the knowledge of leading figures to provide a roadmap for people who are interested in leading a life worth living. This is What the Flow with Sophia Silva.
Tony, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
I know you work a lot with labeling and you don't agree with the way kind of things are going right now towards you're obese or you have a disease or ADD or depression or this and that. And it's interesting. What's your opinion on that mentality of like, I'm sick and I can't do anything about it?
Well, we basically teach it. We encourage it from the time we're young. You know, we have we're born through evolution with a natural instinct to be rivalrous and antagonistic and competitive. And then as we get older, we're always reinforcing that with you're ugly, you're fat, you're a loser. And so we adapt this dependency mindset and this negative self-talk, and then it just sort of snowballs, you know, so that we're always reinforcing what's inside our heads, which is always some form of self-condemnation, negative self-talk, negative rumination. So it's, in other words, we've created the culture where being sick is the norm. Like the language that we use are the most powerful drugs. They're the ones that are steering and navigating our self-talk, how we see ourselves, how we identify ourselves, how other people see us. So we either are reinforcing our behaviors or we're changing and evolving and growing. So anything that keeps us away from that change and growing and evolving process is something that we need to self-examine and address. And labeling takes us away from that.
Another thing I've noticed too, now that you're talking about that, is like we have this weird habit of if someone compliments us, like, oh, I love your shirt, it looks so great on you, being like, oh, it's nothing, like it looks ugly on me. You know, like we don't say thank you, I really appreciate that.
Well, we need to have more kindness and sincerity and genuine commentary on our lives. You know, we're either looking to connect and really make connections with people, or we're either managing an image in which we think we're connecting, but we're really not being authentic. So I think a lot of people are just guarded and not really being themselves.
Can you talk about a little bit, we were talking about exactly that right before we started filming, about just being yourself and who cares if you're an outlier?
Well, I think, you know, it's just strange that like we are in a culture now where everything is being medicalized. So you can't have any kind of behavior that if it doesn't look like it's desirable, it has to be labeled, it has to be given some kind of a disorder to it, which then obviously comes with some prescription medication that can be now prescribed. And so people are just not ever feeling like they can just be themselves. Every behavior has to be questioned. There's an expression that someone once told me, life is hard and then you die. So in the meantime...
That's not very positive.
No, that isn't very positive. But the idea is to live your life like it matters. And to do that, you have to experience joy, happiness, life satisfaction, fulfillment, and the ways to do that is to be yourself. And the only way you can be yourself is not allow people to label you, to criticize you, to judge you. And so once we sort of take it upon ourselves to want to change, to want to evolve, and we look at positivity and growth as being the norm, then we won't feel so unusual when we're trying to change things around and people say, well, no, I'm sick, you know, I have to be sick. And they're always wanting to identify themselves in that deficit-based way.
You know, I've actually been thinking a lot about this lately. is fear. How we do a lot of things out of fear to protect ourselves. Like we become really have these habits of being anxious, and we're scared of this, we're scared of that. And in reality, that fear, when we get towards the end of our life and we're lying on our deathbed, we're going to look back and think, why did I live my life like that? I didn't get the full range of experience, what you were saying, the fulfillment, the happiness, and all of that.
Right, because we're born fearful. You know, the brain part called the amygdala, which is the fear center and holds our emotions.
Yeah.
It's like the most active brain part at birth. So if you think about it, we are born crying after spending 9 months, you know, in a safe environment where we were just chilling out and relaxing. And now we're into this new environment where we're afraid. The only part of our brain that's really active is this brain center, the amygdala. And then everything from that point is sort of having to prove to ourselves that everything is going to be safe, everything is going to be all right.
Yeah.
And so we're learning how to accept that if that's a reality. But if you think of your brain as sort of like a supercomputer, our experiences are being downloaded like software.
Yeah.
So our experiences get downloaded, that becomes our reality, and we learn how to act and behave, which is comfortable and familiar to us based on our experiences. So
how can we change those behaviors? Is it something easy or difficult to do?
Everything takes some sort of a discipline.
Yeah.
You have to make an effort. You have to want to do it.
Right.
You can't make anybody change. You can't really control anybody. A lot of the things that we do today is we look at a positive outcome as whether or not somebody has complied to what we want.
Right.
Or we coerce people into things, you know, or we're trying to control. Then we get disappointed in them if they fail to meet what we think is the absolute way of doing things. And so I think we have to change that and give the person the information and the education that they have the power, that they have to reinforce their own autonomy, and that they have to take personal responsibility for as much of their behavior as they can.
Right.
And you can learn that, but you have to want to.
Right. It sounds like you're talking about learned helplessness versus not.
Positive psychology.
Yeah.
Martin
yeah,
Seligman.
versus positive reinforcement.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that once, you know, if we're told time and time again that we can't do something, then we're just going to internalize that and believe that, which is coming from the disease model, right?
Yes.
Versus if we're told, like, you are healthy, you are whole, you are strong enough to make a change, then we will make that change.
Yes, because we know our brain has neuroplasticity.
Yes.
It can rewire itself.
Yeah.
Well, what's already been hardwired is a lot of this conditioning and belief system from people basically saying you're sick, or you know, you're diseased, or this is the label, which sort of is the more convenient and expeditious way of lumping everybody together in groups.
Right.
But what we're failing to understand is that we're all human, we're human first, and that our life experiences and circumstances are unique to us. Nobody knows what's going on inside your head, my head, this moment, on a cellular or a molecular level. Only we know what's going on. And so to think that I know what's going on, how you feel and whatever, is wrong. And so it's necessary to look at each individual as unique, try to understand their subjective experiences, and then you can work with them in order to help them progress and evolve.
So how does that work if I'm trying to make a change, let's say for New Year's resolution, and I want to lose weight, or I want to start working out, or I want to start being nicer to people, I don't know. How can we actually make those lasting changes, not just something that we do for a month?
Because change is always happening. So we can't put these like little markers on it. Like if you were like, let's say you were doing a New Year's resolution to lose weight. So you're successful for, you know, a month or two, and then all of a sudden you have a stressful period of time and you go back to eating. So you gain weight. If the language in the society, if the dialogue with people who are in the help profession, your friends or even your family are saying, you failed, you're a loser, you have no
control,
you have no self-control. These are what I refer to as deficit-based negatively connotated and emotionally charged words and language. That reinforces your already thinking in terms of your self-condemnation, beating yourself up, the language that you already talk about inside your head about who you are, and it just reinforces it. Well, when you reinforce it, now you're encouraging that, well, why should I even try? Or this will never work for me.
Yeah.
As opposed to saying, okay, keep moving. Keep moving forward. You did a good job. The fact that, how did you even do it? How did you even lose that 10 pounds in 30 days?
Right.
Wow, that's amazing. Tell me more about it.
Right. I love that. I love that. Because I see a lot of times what people do, it's like, I'm going to start this diet, and it's like you go intensely, and that's all you do for like a week or a month, and then of course you're going to fail that moment that you like eat the burger or didn't go to the gym, and it's like, no, it's fine. Like,
no, it's fine.
It's cool. Like, it's totally normal, and don't completely give up just because of that.
Right.
Like, just go back tomorrow or go back when you have some time.
And that's why I'm basically against a disease model where there's the all or nothing
I hate that.
kind of idea, because there's many shades of gray. Not everything is black and white. And somebody who sort of goes, like if their goal, let's say, was to not do a behavior and they were to do it again, my first question I would ask somebody is, are you okay? Did you hurt anybody? Did you do anything? And they say, no, I'm fine. Okay, good. Let's just move forward.
Right.
And we just keep moving forward. But if we like focus that person now as if they created the big, the sin or something, they then internalize that, and then they feel shame. Now remember, a lot of shame. All the mental health and a lot of obviously the addictive behaviors are met with stigma and shame. I'm suggesting that our language and the words we use to describe that when we tell people and label them reinforces that. To get them to not feel like it's something shameful, then we got to look at any positive movement that they make and reinforce that, not discourage them by coming down hard on them when they have a miscue, so to speak. Because everything is about growth.
Right, and that's just on your path towards growth. You're going to have some little slips
Peaks
and
and
falls
valleys
along the way.
So, so to me, this is success, because it's part of the journey.
Right.
Up, down, up. But if every time you go down, you get hammered, with criticism, because other people want to sort of think that they have an absolute knowledge of you and what the behavior should be like and how to handle it, then I think that's the problem, in more of a societal.
This program is brought to you by
Anaheim Stoneworks, the company that has taken all the obstacles out of your way. From start to finish, Anaheim Stoneworks takes care of each and every step to give your home the unique look that you've been dreaming of. Anaheim Stoneworks. Quality from start to finish.
Master Toddy LA Training Center offers authentic Muay Thai training with locations in Bangkok, Pomona, and Anaheim. For more information, visit mastertoddyla.com. Right. Well, doesn't it also make us feel good when we think we're better and we have the answers, and it's like, oh, you failed. Like, just looking down on that person, like there is a small like rush to that, or a small feeling of being better.
I think because we all have existential type of anxiety, fear of the unknown. We live here not really certain if there's a heaven or all this, and so we have to have belief systems. So because of that, we're sort of trained, most people, to need certainty or to have some sort of absolute thinking. But again, life is variable. It's always changing.
Well, how do you think we can deal with that uncertainty? Because I think that's always something fascinating, that we create all these rituals around uncertainty.
I think you have to realize that life is always changing, and our mission in this life is to live a life that matters, be the best people we can be. Instead of tapping into the antagonisms and the rivalries and the competition and the fears and the insecurities and the certainties, we can spend a lot of time with the growths and the change and the evolution of ourselves, self-examination, kindness, compassion, empathy, being non-judgmental, contribution to others. If we can take that dialogue and language and teach people starting when they're young that that is really, really important, I think that'll resonate and have a rippling effect.
Yeah, I think it would be so beneficial if we had stuff like that starting in kindergarten, you know what I mean, and preschools, and just having it throughout the whole education system.
Absolutely, I think so too.
So can you talk a little bit about your book, Rethinking Excessive Habits and Behaviors?
Rethinking Excessive Habits and Addictive Behaviors, the acronym is REHAB.
Yes, rehab.
And the idea on it is that the person, the individual, is really their own place to go.
Okay.
Just like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, there's no place like home, and she clicks her heels.
Yeah.
But really, the whole thing is sort of, a mythology of that we are really all about ourselves. We have to take personal responsibility and control for our own behavior. So I give it a different perspective on how you can think of any excessive habit that's undesirable or some behavior that you're not comfortable with, and how it's more of a learned condition.
Right.
You've learned it somewhere along the line as a way to cope.
Right.
So we make choices because we learn certain things. We learn to cope. We don't have enough information, or we don't feel we have options, or our circle of influence are feeding us the same amount of information.
Or sometimes it's just easier to reach for
Just
something.
easier. It's always easier to take a pill.
Yeah.
And somebody to say, okay, the reason why you're very successful and rich and you have everything in your life, but you're still, being self-sabotaging is because you have something in your brain. So here's a pill, and that explains it, and this will help you. No, I'm saying you learn to do that so you can unlearn it. You can learn new coping skills.
Yeah.
And you can change your thinking. So instead of saying, hey, I'm an alcoholic, you can say, I'm a human being. And my life has been challenging, and I'm working on trying to find better ways to cope.
Right.
And for the meantime, I've just been dealing with drinking as a way to do it, but now I know it's not the way to go, and I'm going to try to empower myself to change.
Yeah, I love that.
And so I have a section on celebrities. I talk about love, approval, and validation, which is really the cornerstone for everybody.
We all need to be validated. Yes.
Whether the person's homeless, downtown Los Angeles, where I'm from, or in Malibu, going to very expensive rehabs, that is really the cornerstone, which keeps us connected as part of humanity.
Yeah.
And that is what I also address.
Yeah.
So I'm just giving, it's a general interest read, but it's just sort of more encompassing of humanity as opposed to medicalizing people's behavior and putting them into groups and boxes.
Well, I think we all have the ability inside of ourselves to heal ourselves and to listen to what our body needs.
That's another reason I don't use in anybody that I speak with like a word like recovery, because recovery is suggesting that I'm always in a spot every day of what? Going back to where I was before I started the behavior. But I don't want to go back there. I want to change and understand why that happened in the first place, and then I can correct and move forward and evolve so that at a point I'm not recovering anymore. I have just grown and I have evolved as a human being.
What do you think about, because you just said about surrounding yourself with people that will help you, but what if your close circle of people maybe don't understand what you're going through, or they don't support you, or they don't believe in it? What can you do in that situation?
You have to be true to yourself. You can't be all things to all people, and you have to do what's right for you.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, a lot of people who are in conventional treatments of any kind are either forced in there, coerced in there, mandated by a court in there, but all of those reasons are not really voluntary. So ultimately, for the majority of people, it doesn't have that big of a success rate. And I'm only talking success about curbing the behavior. I'm not talking about any measurable success rate in improving upon their positive well-being.
Oh, I agree, and thriving, essentially.
And thriving.
And flourishing, yeah.
And flourishing.
Yeah, I always say that when I, when I was in high school and I was diagnosed with depression and I was going through all my stuff, I always say, because I saw like a nutritionist and a therapist, and they gave me antidepressants. And I always say that, that helped me stop the behavior. Absolutely. And that definitely improved my life, don't get me wrong. But it wasn't until I started practicing a lot of things in positive psychology where I actually felt like I got beyond just stopping that behavior. It was more about like, okay, I'm actually enjoying life and I'm actually developing as a human being.
Right. And you see with people who are only focused on the behavior itself, that they either transfer what they stop to something else.
Yeah, to a Diet Coke or cigarettes or coffee.
Lots of cigarettes.
Yeah.
Sugar, eating,
Yeah.
maybe other medications, and then also their thinking hasn't changed. So that self-condemnation, negative rumination, negative self-talk, if that doesn't change, it doesn't really make any difference that I stop this, because the quality of my life, the overall positive well-being, the flourishing, and the thriving is not there. It looks like it might be there because you say like, okay, I feel great, I'm very successful in my work.
Yeah.
But inside your head, that's your own world in there, and nobody can see it but you.
It's a scary place.
It can be very scary if you don't have the right dialogue.
Right.
So wouldn't you really rather have dialogue that talks about positivity and growing and changing and learning, as opposed to just saying, okay, I'm complacent, I'll accept this, this is my fate, I have no control. My life is now determined by this illness.
Yeah, that it's a disease, you know.
See, I don't think that that's really helpful for the majority of people.
No, I agree with you.
So I just think education, not being more curious than just having to be right, asking questions, wanting to know more. These are just human qualities, I think, that are really good. You want to grow, you want to get better.
Yes, I agree. And getting better throughout your life, improving and developing and being curious until the day you die is what I think.
Yes,
that's my theory. Yeah. You're never done working on yourself.
Never done working on yourself. Everything's changing. There's always a curveball. Life is difficult, but that's okay. That's part of life. It's just how we interpret it ourselves and how we experience it ourselves. And we can benefit ourselves by just using more positive language and really trying to learn how to create solutions, better coping skills, and realize that we're a human first and any difficulties are secondary.
How do you suggest people keep themselves motivated to change their habits? Because we were talking about this, how, you know, you fail once and you feel like a failure and everybody tells you you're a failure and you just kind of give up. So how can you stay motivated if you do make that little boo-boo?
Well, you have to change the way you think about it. You know, you have to convince yourself that you're this human being first. You have your life challenges, you have your circumstances that you want to deal with. You're setting your goals, but every day's a goal. Every day you're working on yourself, and whether or not you had, it doesn't have to be a New Year's resolution. Don't think of it as a New Year's resolution. That's the first thing. First course of action.
It's a lifestyle, right?
It's a lifestyle. Because if you're only focused on like accomplishing a goal, you think that there's a finite amount of growth that you want to do. If it's December and it's the holidays and whatever, and you say, what's my New Year's resolution? My New Year's resolution is my everyday lifestyle resolution, which is to get better, to grow, to change. And that's what's motivating me, because every day I want to be something that finds fulfillment, satisfaction, and equanimity. Not just holidays, not just New Year resolutions, but every day. And that way I can bring more joy and happiness into my life on a regular basis.
I love that. So we're actually going to end on that note because that's perfect.
Whatever you'd like.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for watching, guys, and thank you, Tony, for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
If you like the show, please subscribe to my channel, Sophia Silva, and follow me on Instagram or hit like on my Facebook page, and thank you for watching.
All conversation and information exchanged during participation in the sophiasilva.org website, Sophia Silva YouTube channel, or interaction with and all social media sites is intended for information and entertainment purposes only, and should not be considered a professional diagnosis or treatment. Do not confuse this information with treatment or medical advice or directions per se. Nothing posted on this site supplements or supersedes the direction of your medical caretakers. Sophia Silva, MA, does not provide the information on these pages to substitute for individualized therapy. No claim to cure, treat, diagnose, or otherwise provide mental or behavioral health care is guaranteed, promised, or implied by this site. The same applies to any professionals who might appear on this site. This website contains links to other websites and resources. We take no responsibility for the content of other resources, electronic or written. If you're in need of any health services, please contact a licensed professional or call 911.